What's going on, sports fans? We got another episode of Off the Schneid. It's your boy Cody coming at you. We had live sports for the first time in about 2 months on Saturday with UFC 249. It was everything I could have hoped for and a little bit more. It was a fantastic night of fights. We went 10-1 with our picks. Only one I got wrong was Charles Rosa. That fight did not go the way that I thought it was going to, but hey, we still had a very good record. Hoping to do the same thing on Wednesday's card with UFC Fight Night 171, Teixeira versus Smith. Can't wait. It's a great night of fights. If you're here for the first time, do me a big time favor, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button and notifications. I can feel some momentum with this channel, so let's get it going. Let's keep it moving. So with that, let's jump right into the picks, the betting previews, predictions, everything you need to know, get you prepared for this Wednesday, UFC 171. All right, first fight of the night, we've got the Vanilla Gorilla, the Shermanator, Chase Sherman versus Hurricane Ike Villanueva. The records and everything like that are missing and wrong. A lot of times it is what it is. I might think about start making my own graphics on these, but it takes a lot of time and I don't have that kind of time, to be honest with you, so we'll deal with it. It is what it is. That and the total rounds, they're just the lines weren't up yet, and I couldn't take any more time to wait to put this out. I had to get it out for you guys, so here it is. Those are missing. I'll touch on it and adjust accordingly if you see any value there. So we'll kick it off. We got Ike Villanueva, former middleweight. So that should tell you a lot right there. Former middleweight, 185. He fought Trevin Giles before they were both in the UFC and lost via arm triangle. Sorry. And again, that's at middleweight. And it's not like we're talking about Anthony Johnson here, where he's just absolutely massive, and it's absurd to think that he could get to middleweight, let alone welterweight, which is where Johnson got to, which is nuts. But either way, he's not like a huge jacked, type of guy. He doesn't have the body of a heavyweight. So I don't know if this is super short notice. His last few fights were at light heavyweight. He just fought another former heavyweight at light heavyweight, Rashad Coulter, for Fury Fighting. I believe that was for the title, and he did win it. So good knockout win for him there. But again, he's not a true heavyweight for me, which makes me a little nervous. It's good to see him get a shot in the UFC. He's had a long career, 36 years old. He's been around for a long time. He's paid his dues. It's good to see him get a shot. I mean, it's a good opponent for him. So we'll move to Chase Sherman. Fought his way back into the UFC, took a couple losses, and then dropped back to kind of the regional circuit and jumped back into island fights. He's had a bunch of fights with island fights, and won 3 straight via first round knockout. However, he has shown a very strong susceptibility to getting clipped and getting hit and getting dropped, which definitely bodes well for Isaac Villanueva. So buyer beware with Chase Sherman on this. He's won a lot of fights via knockout, and he's been knocked out a lot, and he's been dropped a lot. In the island fights bouts that he had, he got dropped in every single one of them. So he was able to come back and recover and get the victory, but that's very concerning to me. There's a decent potential that Villanueva has a better chin than Sherman at this point. So like I said, buyer beware. If we're going to look at the odds, the betting lines, it's tough to see a ton of value anywhere. This is an extremely variable fight, which has me super nervous. If you want to throw a flyer on the underdog and take Villanueva, he's clearly not cutting any weight. Neither is Sherman. They're not cutting weight, but I don't see any value in this fight. I'm probably going to avoid it completely, if I'm being honest. I mean, the odds aren't crazy good for knockouts or for a finish anywhere. If you want to take the money line for Villanueva in an upset, I mean, I couldn't blame you for that. But for me, I'm going to avoid it on my bet slips. Also, if you want to see my personal bet slips, the the @ was there, @ Cody Woodman. Follow me on Twitter, and you can see my personal bet slips for proof or whatever you need. My pick, my prediction, my pick for the fight, for the winner, straight winner, is going to be Chase Sherman, just because he has more experience and he is a true heavyweight. So I'm going to take Chase Sherman to win the fight. And as far as betting, like I said, I'm probably going to avoid it completely. All right, second fight of the night, we've got Mowgli, Gabriel Benitez, and Omar Morales, the Venezuelan fighter, which is right up there with the blonde fighter for most basic nickname in the UFC. So this is an interesting fight. Gabriel Benitez has been a 145er. He's been a featherweight for his whole career in the UFC, which is about 8 fights, something like that. Winning record 5-3, I believe. Last time out against Sadiq Youssef, he lost via first round TKO. He definitely clipped Youssef in that fight, but in my opinion, Sadiq got a little complacent there and just got clipped. Recovered, got the job done. And to be honest with you, I don't love guys moving up a weight class unless they either have a big frame or they have trouble missing weight or making weight, things like that. And I don't really see that for Benitez. So I'm not sure why he's making the move up to 155. I think he had a reasonable thing going at 145. I mean, Sadiq Youssef, there's nothing at all wrong with that loss. And then Enrique Barzola just wrestled him and did an okay job on the feet with Benitez. Benitez is pretty good on the feet, but he definitely won the grappling match in that and took a unanimous decision win. Andre Fili, considering the differences between Benitez and Fili, that's kind of how I would have probably seen that fight going. It was a head kick and then TKO from there for Fili. So, I mean, I like a lot of... He's definitely very experienced, Benitez. He has a very good camp at AKA. I mean, he's not super old. There's nothing to not like about Benitez. The only issue that I have is moving up to 155 when you don't particularly have the frame for it, and it's just not really necessary, in my opinion. It's hard to say why he's doing it, but either way, that's what's going on. It's a lightweight fight, 155. Omar Morales, this will be his second UFC fight. He won on the Contender Series in a first round second round TKO, sorry. Leg kicks and punches, things like that. Comfortable on his feet, and then he showed a lot of good grappling against Dong Hyung Ma in his UFC debut in, I believe, was in Korea, in Ma's backyard type of thing. So again, he trains with another very good camp, Hard Knocks 365. Undefeated guy, long, rangy, big, strong, all these things. The way I kind of see this fight going is I see Morales wrestling him. I see him trying to take him down and just pound him out, something like that. That's kind of how I see it going. On the feet, I don't think there's any sort of huge disadvantage there or advantage for Benitez. I don't see it that way. So my pick for the fight, my pick for the winner is going to be Morales. I just think he's got a lot more going on at that weight class. I don't love Benitez moving up. I just don't. So as far as the betting lines are concerned, there's not a crazy ton of value there. If I'm gonna get creative, I don't mind Morales for a decision. 3.1, nothing wrong with that. 3-1 on your money for a decision win for Morales. He could stop him, and I mean, there's not a huge difference there between a stoppage and the decision as far as the odds are concerned. So I mean, it depends on whatever you think. I personally don't expect him to just go out there and knock him out. It's very possible. He has the power to do it, but Benitez moving up might have a kind of better chin. When guys are cutting weight and stuff like that, their ability to take a shot decreases. So without cutting all that weight, he might have a better ability to take a punch or a kick to the head, that kind of thing. So it's hard to say, but I mean, you could sprinkle either one, the decision or the KO, and kind of hedge your bets that way. I'm not taking Benitez anywhere. The fight to go to the distance, 1.72. I don't mind that. That's decent value there. It's almost a pick 'em to go to the distance or not. Over under rounds, depending on what you're getting for over 1.5. If you can get anything over 1.4 for 1.5, I think that's decent value to throw in a parlay. So you could look at that depending on what the line is when it comes out. But yeah, my pick is Omar Morales in this one. Next up, I'm not sure about the order of these. I have the last two fights, this one and the one previous, might be flip-flopped. I'm not 100% on that, but either way, we'll give you the picks. We'll start, and I'm not sure with what weight class this is happening in. On the UFC website, it says featherweight, but both of these guys are bantamweights. So I'm not really sure. I guess we'll see in the weigh-ins. I don't know if they're just taking it at 145, similar to maybe how McGregor and Cowboy decided to just fight at 170. Maybe that's, I don't know. I'm not really sure, but either way, they're usually fighting at bantamweight 135. So we'll see what weight they actually fight in. I don't think that's going to change in my prediction or the way the fight goes down in any way. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. We'll start with Brian Kelleher. Not a very tall guy, 5'6", doesn't have the reach is obviously right there. There's a little bit of an advantage for Hunter Azure. He's had a very streaky UFC career. He's had a long career, 30 fights, obviously. But he's in the UFC, he's not losing to guys that he should be beating. Chito Vera was his first loss in the UFC. His second fight beat Yuri Alcantara, which is a great win for him. Beat Renan Barão, which is a great win as well, but that was right when Barão started losing to everybody. But Chito Vera, nothing wrong with that loss whatsoever. John Lineker hits like a friggin' truck, so nothing wrong with getting KO'd in the third from John Lineker. And then Montel Jackson. The only issue I have with the Montel Jackson is I would think that Kelleher would have an advantage on the ground, an advantage in the wrestling, and he lost that Bravo choke is what it was, which is a sneaky submission, but I thought he would have had an advantage on the ground over Montel Jackson. But either way, he beat Julio Arce twice before they were in the UFC. Andre Sukumtat, a lot of experience. He's got a ton of experience and he's seen a lot of things. However, I think that Hunter Azure is going to be a big problem at bantamweight. I think he's got all the tools that you need to be successful, and he's got a very good camp, Henry Cejudo's camp, fight ready. So I think he's got all the tools necessary. He's undefeated, very good wrestler, very, very good wrestler. And I think his stand-up is coming along very nicely. In that Brad Katona fight, his one fight in the UFC, Brad Katona, and then Chris Okun in the Contender Series, where he won a contract in a decision, which is relatively rare in the Contender Series. But if you watch that Katona fight, his boxing was looking crisp. It was looking like it's improving, and I think he will be improved since then. So I don't see there being a massive advantage for Kelleher. The big advantage I might be able to see for Kelleher would be in power, but the shots that he was giving Chris Okun as well as Brad Katona, he's got quite a bit of power as well. So I wouldn't really say there's an advantage there for Kelleher. If I was going to give him anything, I would say there it is. But I think Hunter Azure is going to be a big problem at bantamweight, and I think he's got a very, very, very bright future. 28 years old, undefeated, like I said. He's got the frame for that division. He's got almost a perfect frame for that division, and he's a big, strong guy. So I'm not sure how much he cuts, but he's a big, strong guy for that division, and I really like his future. So my pick for this fight is definitely Hunter Azure to win. I think he's going to win this fight. Now, how? I think the money line is okay. 1.5 on your money in a parlay. Nothing wrong with that. I think I will most likely put that into a parlay. I haven't made any bets yet, but again, follow at Cody Woodman on Twitter. You'll see my bet slips. And I think I will probably be sprinkling Hunter Azure in a parlay with that money line 1.5. KO for a stoppage. Once the line comes out for a stoppage or decision, I will pretty much definitely be taking that with Hunter Azure. Because there's a very good possibility this does go to a decision if he can't finish Kelleher. So I will pretty much absolutely be hitting that one. in just a straight up stoppage, 4.5, 4.3 on your money. I like it, but it's a little bit risky. It's definitely risky. If you see a finish there, then go ahead. You can sprinkle that. The decision 2.25. I don't love that considering. I'd rather again go with the stoppage or decision. Go with that for Hunter Azure, and then you're kind of hedging your bet as well. I'm not sure what the line will be on that. If I'm guessing, I'd probably say 2.75. 2.8, something like that maybe, but that's very worth it in my opinion. So as of right now, the way I look at it, I see the 1.5 on the money line for Hunter Azure in a parlay being a decent bet. You want to go Brian Kelleher, you could take him on a flyer, 4.5 on your money for a knockout. Sure. I really do not see him being able to grind out a decision win. I think if this goes to a decision, Hunter Azure wins almost 100%. And then if you want to take a flyer on Kelleher for a stoppage, a KO, or a submission, be my guest, but at your own risk. Either way, my pick, Hunter Azure. My bet money's going on Hunter Azure as well. In the only women's fight of the card, we've got Sijara Eubanks versus Sarah Moras. Not extremely excited to watch this fight, if I'm being honest with you. Both these girls are very mediocre in my opinion. Neither of them are even close to a title shot, nor will they be. It doesn't necessarily mean it won't be an exciting fight, but watching their most recent performances, I'm not screaming excited to watch this match, to be honest with you. We'll start with Sarah Moras. Liana Jojua, she got the TKO win in, I think that was in Abu Dhabi. Third round TKO. It was a good performance. Again, not a super exciting fight, but it was a good performance. She missed weight in that as well, which is concerning at 135. I mean, either you move up to 145 with the 3 other girls that are in that weight class, or you continue to try to make weight at 135, which is probably what she will do, and obviously that's what she's doing in this fight. Who remembers when Sijara Eubanks almost got fed to Amanda Nunes? I think everybody's pretty happy that fight didn't go down, because it wouldn't have ended well for Eubanks, I don't think. And yeah, it wouldn't have even been a contest, in my opinion. So Sarah Moras, Liana Jojua gets the win in her last time out. Before that, she fought Macy Chason in Ottawa and got ground and pounded in the second round for a pretty decisive win for Chason, who I really, really like and really think that she's going to be making a title push at some point. She took that loss to Lena Landsberg, I believe, which isn't a terrible loss by any means, but she'll be back. Either way, I like Macy Chason a lot. So that's not a terrible loss at all. And then Bernardo Pudilova, last win before that, Ashley Evans Smith in an armbar, first round armbar, which is a good win. Lost to Jessica Andrade, Rocky Pennington. I mean, there's just not a ton of consistency with either of these girls. Eubanks has lost her last 2. And I believe the fight before that was supposed to be against Nunes for the title. So if you can't get past Espen Ladd and Betch Correa, no disrespect to those girls, but if you can't get past those girls, you don't even belong in a conversation to be even fighting Amanda Nunes. Let's be honest. She lost to Espen Ladd twice, which I really like Espen Ladd as well. I think she's a really good fighter. And she should be beating Sijara Eubanks for sure. Caitlin Chukagian beat her as well. Again, another fighter that should beat her. She's got multiple wins against Roxanne Modafferi. And then Lauren Murphy, that's a good win for her as well. But again, I'm just not super excited to watch this fight. Making my prediction, my pick to win the fight is going to be Sijara Eubanks. I just think she can do more on the ground, and her boxing is improving. So I think that at the end of the day, she's going to get the win. Most likely a decision, but the odds aren't there for me to like any of this. If I was going to take a flyer and get crazy, I might take Sarah Moras in the decision, 6.5 to 1 on your money. If you want to get froggy, go ahead, but I'm avoiding this. I'm honestly avoiding this fight completely. The only place I see some value is the 1.5 to 1 on your money for the fight to go the distance. That's pretty good odds, actually. Most ladies' fights are a little lower than that. It's obviously higher because of the weight class that they're fighting in. We do see more stoppages at 135 than 115. If this fight was at 115, we'd probably see that at about 1.25, 1.28, something like that. But 1.5 to 1 on your money, you could throw that in a parlay, and you should be okay. But I'm just really not excited to watch these two fight, to be honest with you. But I mean, who knows? Maybe it's fight of the night for all I know. But I just don't see it. And my pick is Ciara Eubanks. All right, next up we've got Michael the Menace Johnson versus Thiago Moises. This should be an interesting one. I don't mind this one at all. This is a very, very, very interesting fight put together by the matchmakers. We're going to start with Thiago Moises. He moved to Florida when he was 17 from Brazil to become a professional fighter. That's what his dad was a professional fighter, I believe. That's what he was going to do pretty much from day one. So moved from Brazil to Florida at 17 to chase his dream type of thing. He trains at American Top Team, obviously in Florida. He's got the size, measurables, everything you need. As far as I know, he's a BJJ black belt. Decent stand-up. His losses are nothing to hang your head about. Jason Knight back in the day, who is actually a really good fighter. You might think like, oh, bare knuckle boxing, Jason Knight, but man, that guy, he's game. He's a game fighter. So lost to Jason Knight back in 2015. It was his first loss. He was a young kid, 20 years old. So nothing wrong with that. Robert Watley is a name you definitely don't know, but he is a very game opponent as well. Very good fighter. I believe he's in the PFL right now. I believe chasing that $1 million. But again, a very game opponent, and he lost that unanimous decision. Then finally gets a shot on the Contender Series, wins in the first round TKO. First fight in the UFC is a very tough fight. Kind of got thrown to the wolves a little bit. Beneil Dariush, who I think should be ranked, he should be 15th at least, if you ask me. He's got a very good resume, Beneil Dariush. He beat both these guys, I believe. He fought both of them. I can't remember off the top of my head if he beat Michael Johnson, but either way, and that's nothing to hang your head about losing to Beneil Dariush. Kurt Holloway gets that win. That's probably a win that he probably should have gotten, which he did. Good for him. And then Damir Ismagulov is very good. And again, it might not be a name that you know, but you will soon. That was a great fight to watch, and you will know the name of Damir Ismagulov very soon. I guarantee it. He's very, very good opponent. As soon as he gets somebody top 15 type of thing, you'll see. So yeah, that's Thiago Moises. Very good opponent, young up and coming kid. Now we've got Michael Johnson, who's very interesting. He's fought everybody. He's literally fought everybody at 155, all the champs. We'll go through it right now. This is his move back up to 155. He might have fought Stevie Ray at 155. I can't remember, but he had a little bit of he dipped down into 145 for a few fights. Fought Darren Elkins, which he lost that fight in the second round rear naked choke, but at that point, that was Darren Elkins' 6th straight win against very good opponents. Darren Elkins is no joke. He's a very good fighter. Andre Fili wins in a split decision. Very close fight. Artem Lobov, you definitely need to be winning that fight, and he did. Unanimous decision. I'm not sure. I kind of had it. It might have been 1-1 against Josh Emmett. You could have said Michael Johnson was winning the fight up until that point, and Emmett needed a finish, and then he clipped him with a huge overhand right that he was setting up all fight. He was setting up all fight, that looping overhand right, and he finally clipped him, knocked him out pretty cleanly. It was an awesome fight at 145. And then, like I said, I believe he moved up. And then the Stevie Ray fight, that one really could have went either way. It was a majority decision. It really could have went either way. So he took the loss, but it wasn't like, yeah, it was a very close fight, and you could have said that he won that one for sure. And then before that, Justin Gaethje, Khabib, Nate Diaz, Beneil Dariush, he did beat them both perfect. But all those guys, very, very tough opponents. He's fought, like I said, he's fought everybody. If you're a fight fan, if you've been watching UFC and you've been watching fights, you know who Michael Johnson is. You know what he can do. He knocked out Dustin Poirier back in the day. He's seen it all, and nothing's gonna really surprise him, to be honest with you. So how do I see this fight going? Well, Thiago Moises, his route to victory is going to be to wrestle him, in my opinion. That's his route to victory, and that's what he should do. Do I think he does that? I don't know. Depends on what he's learned from the Damir Ismagulov fight, because he definitely lost that on the feet and chose for the most part to keep it on the feet, and he got kind of picked apart a little bit, leg kicked heavily. So it depends on how much he's learned from that experience. If you watch the Stevie Ray fight, he knows that he can probably take Michael Johnson down, grind him out, pound him out, get a decision win for the most likely. Michael Johnson should be able to pick him apart on the feet, should be able to win the exchanges, should be able to pop that jab out there, work his 1-2, work his punches, leg kicks, everything like that. He should be able to beat him to the punch on the feet. He's got a little bit of a length and reach advantage for sure. So that's Michael Johnson's most likely route to victory. Again, probably I see this fight going into decision, and clearly so do the odds makers. They're not giving it that great odds to go to a decision. So who is my pick? My pick is going to be Michael Johnson. I don't think he's like lost that thirst to fight and to win and to compete. The dude's fought in the UFC for 10 years. 10 years, and he's 33 years old. He started when he was 23. He was a runner-up on The Ultimate Fighter. He's fought literally every single guy on the roster. There's nothing that Moises can do that's going to surprise Michael Johnson. There's just not. And after that salty loss to Stevie Ray, I think he's going to be pretty motivated to get this win. Trains again at Hard Knocks 365. Very good camp. ATT is a very good camp as well. There's nothing like, nobody's winning the camp battle here. But man, I just think that Michael Johnson can get it done. So as far as the betting is concerned, I'm probably pick 'em fight, obviously. Pick 'em fight. You can whoever you like to win. 1.9 is okay for Michael Johnson or Moises, but I'm taking Michael Johnson. I probably won't bet too much. This is it's a good line by the odds makers, because it is very much a pick 'em fight in my opinion. I'm taking Michael Johnson. I probably don't bet a ton on or any on this fight. I might sprinkle some in the decision in a small parlay, a 2-3 runner type parlay for with Michael Johnson to decision, but I don't see a ton of like glaring value. There's nothing that really sticks out to me that says you got to bet this type of thing. So the money line is always relatively safe if you're gonna just again flip a coin, and for me, I'm taking Michael Johnson. All right, we've got a heavyweight bout against the grizzled vet that is the Pitbull Andre Arlovski. This guy, I'll talk about him in a minute, and then Philip Lins. His measurables aren't up there. You're looking at about 6'1", 235 roughly as far as his height and weight, and then 14-3 is his record. So let's go to Arlovski. This guy, man, he's an animal. This guy obviously loves fighting. Just wants to be a fighter. It's all he does. It's all he knows. He's literally fought 3 generations of heavyweights, all the way back from the Pedro Hizzo and Rico Rodriguez and Tim Sylvia days, and then guys like Travis Brown, Bigfoot Silva, Frank Mir, and then even all the way up to now, Stipe, Ngannou, Rosenstruck, all these guys. He's fought 3 generations of heavyweights. It's crazy. He's fought over 20 years. He's been fighting, and I think in the UFC it's almost 20 years in the UFC, which is nuts. Since his first fight in the UFC, I should say. I guess he did jump over to Strike Force and Elite XC and things like that. But either way, so we got Andre Arlovski. If you have watched fights at all, you know who he is. You know what he can do. You know that his nose is basically made of silly putty at this point. It's crazy at heavyweight. He had 7 straight fights go to a decision at heavyweight. That's got to be some kind of record. That's nuts. So that Andrei Arlovski. There you go. Felipe Lins. Felipe Lins is interesting because he was the PFL heavyweight winner. I guess you call it champ, but winner. He won $1 million in PFL, which is a big payday for a lot of these fighters, and for him for sure. That's a massive payday. I mean, say what you want about the level of competition, but the guys that he fought and beat are relatively comparable to a bunch of the guys that have beaten Arlovski recently. He's not what kind of concerns me about Felipe Lins is he's not huge at all for this weight class. At 6'1", and the way he carries his weight, he's a big guy, but I think he could definitely cut down to 205, and I think that would probably be prudent. That wouldn't be the worst thing for him to do, is cut down, get to 205, and be a bigger, stronger guy there. He finishes a lot of fights, which a lot of heavyweights do. Josh Copeland, that guy was like a zombie at the end of that fight. He just would not go down. It was pretty crazy, pretty fun fight to watch, and a lot of heavy punches. Jared Rushold, same thing, knocked him out in the second round. Alex Nicholson, former UFC fighter. I think Rushold and Copeland actually both fought in the UFC as well. So PFL's got a decent roster, but either way, Alex Nicholson knocked him out in the second round. He's coming off a fairly significant injury. I believe it was a knee injury that kept him out of last season's heavyweight tournament for PFL. And then obviously signed with the UFC, bigger and better things, whatever you want to call it. But either way, the only fight that I could find where he took a loss was against Vadim Nemkov in Bellator. And it was kind of like a looping jab, I guess. That dropped him and knocked him out, which was very surprising to me. You can't be getting knocked out by a jab at heavyweight. You kind of just can't. But I mean, he did take some other big shots in some of the other fights against Nicholson and Rushell and Copeland and that type of thing. But it was surprising that he got knocked out with that punch. Another thing that he does in every fight that I watched of his, every fight he was complaining to the ref about one thing or another, and you just can't be doing that. You can't try to call timeout. In every fight he's trying to call timeout, trying to ask the ref, oh, eye poke, headbutt, this, that, whatever. Did it happen? Probably. Are they going to stop the fight? Maybe not. Are you going to stop fighting? You certainly shouldn't. So I don't like that. I think that's very, very silly of him to just hope that the ref's going to step in and give you a break for a glancing head or an incidental eye poke, things like that they might not have seen. You don't get to call time. Either that just really kind of annoyed me with him a little bit. Fight, man. If the ref steps in and stops it, great, but you can't call timeout. That's not how fighting works. So either way, at the end of the day, I just think Arlovski's got too many miles. He's just got too many miles on him. And I think Lins can just outpoint him at the very least and win a stand-up battle. The only thing that I could see, the only route to victory for Andrei Arlovski for me is if he goes back to the days when what I think he did to Stefan Struve and Ben Rothwell, and just took guys down, which is rare for Arlovski to do. I think he did it to Junior Albini as well. At all of his most recent wins, I believe he took the guy down and just grinded out a decision win. And I think he could do that to Lins. I think he could. Will he? Not very likely. Not extremely likely that Arlovski fights a super smart fight and goes out there and wrestles Felipe Lins. So I'm picking Felipe Lins as my prediction just to win the fight. I'm picking Felipe Lins. As far as the betting is concerned, again, if you want to sprinkle a couple bucks on a decision win for Arlovski at your own risk, be my guest. You could take a KO as well. If I'm sprinkling anything crazy on Arlovski, it would be in a knockout or decision, and have that is an option. So if you can get the knockout / decision, that type of thing for Arlovski, my guess would probably be probably less than these numbers, maybe like 3.75 or something like that. You could take that, sprinkle it in a 2-3 runner parlay, maybe give it a shot. And then as far as Felipe Lins, I'm probably just going to take the money line. I'll probably sprinkle him a little bit in a parlay on the money line. I'm not going to touch this huge because there is a variance, and Arlovski is a vet, and he's seen literally everything. Nothing will surprise him. Very similar to Michael Johnson. But yeah, and then the fight to go the distance, I'm probably avoiding just because heavyweight variance. But again, Arlovski went to 7 straight decisions, so you could sprinkle something on yes to go to decision, 2.37, decent odds. But I don't know, this should be a fun fight. These guys are gonna bang it out. Again, my pick is Felipe Lins, and if I'm gonna sprinkle any money, it'll be Lins in the money line. All right, next up we've got Carl Baby K Roberson versus the Italian Dream, Marvin Vettori. Now, Marvin Vettori, 26 years old, great future, great future in this division in the UFC. He's already had some big fights against some big names. Cesar Ferreira is a pretty big name, pretty good fighter. He got the win there. Obviously, Israel Adesanya, Amari Akhmedov, Antonio Carlos Jr. He's got some good experience, and he's still super young, super talented, big kid, very big kid. And he's got a bright future. Carl Roberson fought on the Contender Series, beat Ryan Spann, who we just saw fight on Saturday at 205. Beat him in about 15 seconds, landed a big elbow, or a couple big elbows, got the win at 205. Dropped down to 185. Beat Darren Stewart, the dentist, in I believe that was in the UK somewhere. And then Cesar Ferreira took a loss there. First round arm triangle choke. That's a tough loss for him, but realistically, Cesar Ferreira is a very good fighter. Beats Jack Marshman, and then takes a short notice fight at 205 again against Glover Teixeira, who's obviously in the main event. Took a loss there, but had him absolutely rocked and in some serious trouble. But Glover's very game, can take a punch, can get more or less knocked out, come back to life, and win a fight. He did it against Kutalaba, did it against Carl Roberson. Next 2 fights, he gets wins. Split decision against Wellington Turman, and then Roman Kopylov, rear naked choke in the third. So I'm going to start with Marvin Vettori. Again, very good future. He's won a lot of fights. He's been to a lot of decisions. Every fight he's been in has gone to a decision except for his debut in the UFC first round guillotine win. In that Israel Adesanya fight, I have no clue how you see that as a split decision. He just got picked apart for the first 2 rounds by Adesanya. Didn't land anything massive except for a big elbow and a couple decent punches, but Adesanya won the first 2 rounds. That's it. He got frustrated. In the third, he had a decent round, but all he did was grab a hold of him, take him down a couple times, did nothing with the position, did nothing to improve, did nothing to put Adesanya in any danger. Adesanya got up a couple times and eventually heard Dean, took the position away from him. After that, Adesanya went back to pick him apart for the last minute and a half or so of the round. So for me, there's a 0% chance you can convince me that Marvin Vettori won that fight. I don't know how that was a split decision. That's crazy to me. Adesanya won that fight. He won the first 2 rounds for sure. Lost the third, yes, 29-28, Israel Adesanya. Carlos Jr., that's a big win for him, or a big fight for him to lose, kind of a thing. There's nothing wrong with that. At that point in his career as well, 4 years ago, he was a 22-year-old kid. He's still only a 26-year-old kid. He's a kid, and he's a big kid, and he's got a lot of potential. But there's no way you can convince me that he beat Israel Adesanya, not a split decision, either way. So I literally just watched that fight, and it was ridiculous that it was a split. Either way. That's Marvin Vettori. Now we got, Carl Roberson, both lefties, they're both southpaws, which is a big thing for me in this fight. So if you look at Carl Roberson against Cesar Ferreira, he landed 1 leg kick, and his leg was beat up. It was chewed up. Roberson landed 1, and he's also a lefty. Keep that in mind. So Ferreira's a lefty, Roberson's a lefty, landed 1 leg kick, chewed him up. Ferreira takes him down, chokes him out. He's way better on the ground. The interesting thing about the Cesar Ferreira fight and Marvin Vettori, again, both lefties. Ferreira started the first round with a lot of leg kicks, and he was landing a lot of leg kicks, having a lot of success, and then he started getting punched in the face too much, and he just kind of went away from it. What he didn't do is try to grapple or take Vettori down, at least not very, like, too much. He didn't really make it a point of emphasis like he did with Roberson. So that's all those fights are very different. But Ferreira, like I said, had a lot of success chewing up his leg, and Vettori does not like to get leg kicked. No one does, obviously, so that goes without saying, but he does not like to get leg kicked. And he's always getting ready to check a leg kick. We saw it against Adesanya, saw it against Ferreira, saw it against I don't know, another fight that I watched of his, Sanchez. So that's kind of how I see this fight going. They're both lefties, like I said. So I see, and another point. We got Roman Kopylov, lefty kickboxer. What does Roberson do? Rips apart his lead leg, lefty versus lefty, and he chews up his leg. So I see that as being kind of exactly how this fight goes. I think Carl Roberson just rips apart Marvin Vettori's lead leg. He just chews him up with leg kicks, and he might land a head kick after that for the knockout, potentially. So that's kind of how I see this going. I see him kicking the crap out of Vettori's leg and landing some good straight lefts. And then potentially, second, third round maybe, landing a big head kick. I could definitely see that happening. Or like landing a combo with a leg kick left straight type of thing, like a leg kick straight left type of thing for a KO. Either way, I think leg kicks are going to play a big role in this fight for Roberson, and I think he gets the win. I'm picking. This is an upset for me. This is probably where I'm going to lay the most money and sprinkle in probably every parlay. I'll have some part of this fight. I think this is where you see the most value on this card, if I'm being honest. And for me, it's for Carl Roberson. So that 2.5 to 1 on the money line for Carl Roberson, I think that's a steal. I think this fight should be way closer to a pick'em, way closer in my opinion. Roman Kopylov is a very good stand-up fighter, lefty versus lefty. Marvin Vettori is not that good on the feet. He's really not. He's a big, strong kid who can hit hard and keeps moving forward. Tough to knock out, very tough to knock out. So I don't know if Roberson does it, which is why I probably avoid that 5 to 1 money on a knockout. But I don't see Marvin Vettori being able to out-kickbox Carl Roberson. I don't. The only route to victory that I see for Marvin Vettori is if he can continue to take him down, grapple him, wrestle him, that type of thing. He is not going to win a kickboxing fight against Carl Roberson. He's not. So if it stays standing, which I actually think that it will, I see Carl Roberson beating the crap out of Marvin Vettori's lead leg, landing some straight rights, landing some good kickboxing, and getting this win. So if I'm betting, I probably look at the money line, 2.5 to 1. That's very good value right there, just on the win. So I'm definitely gonna take that on a few parlays. I'm definitely going to take the distance, the decision for Roberson, 4.33 to 1 on your money. I'm definitely going to take that somewhere because Marvin Vettori, again, very hard to knock out, very tough kid. Not trying to be negative to Vettori at all, but I really like Carl Roberson. Think he's underrated. Think he's got a lot of tools. Very good camp too, by the way. Very good camp. Not that Vettori doesn't either, because he does too. King's MMA is very, very good, but I just like the kind of trajectory that Roberson's going. I think that he's going to be an issue at this weight class, I think, moving forward for a lot of fighters, especially guys like Marvin Vettori. That's just my opinion. So again, I'm picking Carl Roberson, and I'm sprinkling a decision and money line bets for, again, Carl Roberson to win the fight. Next up, we've got Ricky Simón versus the Taz Mexican Devil Ray Borg. Ray Borg's moving up to 135. He just couldn't consistently make weight at 125. The division may or may not be dying out either way, so it's probably a decent move for him either way. Easier to make the weight. The division's not going anywhere. Makes tons of sense to move up here, and this is actually a big fight for him. That's a big time opponent in my opinion. As far as he's concerned, he's a little undersized. He's kind of caught in limbo here between 25 and 35. He can't quite make 25, but he's not big enough to be. He can't quite make 25, but he's not quite big enough for 35. So he's gonna give up a height and reach to almost every opponent he has at 35, including Ricky Simón here. And he's relatively one-dimensional. He's a wrestler. He is very much a wrestler, and that's kind of it. So if he can't get to the better of a guy in a wrestling match, it's probably not going to go his way. And Ricky Simón, I think that he is very underrated, number one. And his losses, I mean, his first loss back in 2016, I couldn't watch it. I couldn't find it. It is what it is. But Merab Dvalishvili, Montel Jackson, and Ronnie Yahya, those are some pretty decent wins. He rattled those off 3 straight. And then against Uriah Faber, man, that was one of the worst stoppages I think I've ever seen. He clipped Faber. Faber clipped him. There was pretty much no way you can convince me that was a good stoppage by Mikey Beltran, who's usually a good ref. But that one was... I was shocked. It was very, very, very surprising. Yes, he clipped him, but he wasn't even landing on the ground. There was no pounding him out. He was ankle picking, I'm sure, because he did get clipped, but man, there's no way he was even close to being out, in my opinion. So that fight should have not been stopped. And I think the longer it goes, I think Ricky Simón wins that fight against Uriah Faber. Sorry, but that's what I think happens. Then he fights Rob Font, who's one of the most underrated fighters in that division. Extremely good boxing, much like Calvin Kattar, their training partners. Very good boxing. And Simón didn't embarrass himself on the feet at all against Rob Font, who's probably definitely a top 5 boxer in that division for sure. Top 3 probably, in my opinion. Top 3 boxer, strict boxer at 135. Very underrated. And he did not embarrass himself. He more than held his own and just wasn't able to kind of wrestle him enough and got picked apart on the feet. But again, that's not saying like anything negative about Ricky Simón over here. So, and I think he probably learned a fair bit in that fight about his boxing and about boxing and everything like that, and how to move. At least you can mirror that, right? So, I think Ricky Simón wins this fight pretty much for sure. I don't really give Ray Borg much of a shot, if I'm being honest. I think Ricky Simón might be my most confident pick on this card. So for betting, I probably look to a decision. That's decent value there, but the money line 1.5 on your money, yeah, I like that. It's an easy kind of pick for me. An easy 1.5, throw it in a parlay again, maybe four or 5 runners, something like that. Juice up your parlay. I just don't really see. There's pretty much no way I give Ray Borg a chance to out wrestle Ricky Simón, who's a very good wrestler. I don't see it, and he's way bigger. He is way bigger than Ray Borg. Way more muscular, everything. So again, a guy moving up a weight class because he can't make the weight. He's smaller, everything. I don't see pretty much any way Ricky Simón loses this fight. I'll say again. So again, I'm picking Ricky Simón. The money line's a decent bet. You could go with the decision. I don't particularly see a finish in this fight for either fighter. So decision or money line for me for Ricky Simón. All right, next up we got what I consider the most likely fight of the night contender. This is a very good fight. I'm very excited for this one. Super underrated. We got the Alexander the Great Hernandez versus Drew the Doberman Dober. We'll start with Hernandez. Comes into the UFC, fake glove touch against Beneil Dariush. That's a tough fight. Again, I've mentioned him before in this episode. Beneil Dariush is a very, very, very good fighter. Fake glove touch, and then that didn't really matter at the end of the day, the fake glove touch, but he knocked out Beneil Dariush in a very good debut, very big fight for him. It immediately got him ranked, and he's been ranked since. fights Aubin Mercier, who's a good fighter as well. I expected that to go a different way, but Hernandez did a great job and out-wrestled Mercier for the majority of that fight, which is surprising to me. But either way, then he gets a little way too confident, actually, way too confident, and thinks he's going to go in and just wreck the old dusty veteran, the cowboy Donald Cerrone. Cerrone puts on a striking clinic and just lands some of the sweetest combinations that you will ever see on Alex Hernandez and knocks him out in the second round, which was bittersweet and very good to see. And I think it's very good for his career at the end of the day. After that, he fights Francisco Trinaldo. I think they're supposed to fight once or twice, but it got called off or moved or whatever. Finally they fight in, I think it was in Canada, but they finally fight each other. And for me, Trinaldo won that fight. You can go back and watch it, and it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but Trinaldo just chased him around for 3 rounds and landed bigger shots and pushed the pace. For me, Trinaldo won that fight. So, yeah, that was not a good outing for Hernandez at all, and I think he would be the first person to tell you that. So he's got to feel pretty confident for the most part. He's still ranked to me somehow. I would this is where I would definitely put Beneil Dariush, even though he knocked him out. I would put Beneil Dariush right here at 15. So now we got Drew Dober. Drew Dober's a fighter that people probably don't know enough about, but they should. And you might not know how long he's been in the UFC, but he's been in there so long. He fought guys like Efren Escudero and Jamie Varner. He fought Jamie Varner. That's going back a bit. And he's still only 31 years old. To have this many fights, 33, 34 fights at 31 years old, that's a lot of experience. So where he gets into trouble in fights, where he gets into trouble is when it hits the ground, or he goes in for the finish. He clips a guy and he tries to go in for the finish and pound him out and get the win, get the finish. And then better ground fighters get a hold of him and they end his night. And that's what he needs to avoid if he does clip Hernandez, which we'll get into that. If he does, he needs to avoid trying to go in for the kill a little recklessly. Hernandez grabs a hold of him and finishes him. So it happened against Aubin Mercier, happened against Dariush. So if he can avoid that, keep it standing, keep it a kickboxing match, I very much like Drew Dober's chances in a kickboxing match against Hernandez, considering what Cowboy did to him. His last 2 fights, he knocked out Nasrat Hasparath, which I picked and made a couple bucks on, which was a very good win for him. Extremely good, because Nasrat Haparast had a lot of momentum going into that fight, and Drew Dober put his lights out in the first round. It was pretty awesome. Marco Polo Reyes, you gotta do that, and he did. Dariush, yep, sure. You want to watch a fun fight? Watch Frank Camacho and Drew Dober. That was a fun one to watch. So, how do I see this fight playing out? I see it playing out similar to the Cowboy fight. How Alex Hernandez wins this fight, he gets a hold of him. He gets a hold of him, pushes him against the cage, takes him down, grinds him out, maybe gets a finish. I mean, the only way I really see Hernandez finishing him is if he can catch a submission on him, which is possible because he's been caught a few times, Drew Dober. But that's his route to victory for Alex Hernandez. Get a hold of him, get your arms around him, wrestle him, take him down, try to get a submission, ground and pound, get the win. That's how I see Hernandez winning this fight. For Drew Dober, and if it's a kickboxing match, he's gonna win. If it's a kickboxing match, he's gonna win this fight. He's got a very good kickboxing, very good power, everything like that. So what am I picking for my prediction, for my pick to win the fight? Drew Dober. Leave it at that. Picking Drew Dober to win this fight. As far as betting and the odds, almost basically a pick 'em. Not much of a difference there. KO TKO. I don't know if I go there. I don't know if I go there with Drew Dober. To be honest, and this sounds weird, I did the same sort of thing in my 249 show as well. If I'm taking a knockout or submission, I'm probably taking Hernandez, to be honest with you. But I probably don't sprinkle that. I just don't touch that. What I probably do is just take Drew Dober in the money line. That's probably where I'm going to go with this. I'm not going to have a huge amount of exposure to him. I'll have a lot more on Carl Roberson, that's for sure. But I'll probably sprinkle the money line for Drew Dober and decision. I probably look to that decision, 3 3/4, 3.75 in a decision, as well as the 1.8 in the money line. That's what I'm looking for, and have Drew Dober as the winner. Another heavyweight bout here. We got OSP moving up to the heavyweight division, former light heavyweight title contender. I think he might have had 2 title shots, OSP, but at 205. Either way, he's making the move up to heavyweight, where I actually think I like OSP's chances to potentially push his way up the rankings. There's not, if you look at the rankings, there's a lot of room for a guy like OSP to jump right in there and get pretty high pretty quick. So I like the OSP's chances to do that. So we'll see who he fights next, but we'll deal with the task at hand here. We'll go to Ben Rothwell, who's like one of the most cringiest guys you've ever seen with his creepy laugh. He's such a weird guy, but either way, I'm sure he's a real sweetheart. But 3 years off, comes back, fights Blagoy Ivanov, loses decision, fights Andre Arlovski, loses decision, and then fights Stefan Struve and kicks him in the junk enough times that Struve just couldn't do it anymore. It says TKO via punches on his sheer dog, but he just kicked him in the balls a few too many times, and Struve couldn't take it anymore. It's pretty much what happened there. To be honest, without all those nut shots, I'm not sure if Rothwell wins that fight. I'm really not sure at all. So that's Ben Rothwell. I'm going to keep this pretty short and quick, to be honest with you. OSP, very good stand-up fighter and super underrated on the ground and with submissions. The straight armbar he did to Tyson Pedro a while back, a couple years ago, that was nice. That was really nice. Shoulder choke, he's done that a few times in his career. Yeah, he's underrated with submission game. So if it hits the floor, I really don't think that it does. I don't think this hits the floor, but if it does, I give OSP an advantage there, especially to finish it with a submission or to finish it on the ground. But other than that, man, I think OSP knocks him out. I really hope so too. I'm not a fan of Ben Rothwell like at all. And I don't mind OSP. There's nothing wrong with him. Former title contender. I think he's gonna have a good couple years at heavyweight, I feel like, and you never know, maybe he can contend for a title. But either way, I think he's gonna have an easier route to victory than Ben Rothwell. I really don't see any way that Ben Rothwell wins this fight unless he kicks him in the nuts enough times to basically knock him out. I don't know. Like I just don't see it. So I'm definitely picking OSP to win the fight. 2.5 to 1 on your money for a knockout. I don't mind that. I'm probably going to sprinkle that, as well as definitely the money line. Depending on how many runners you got in a parlay, you could just throw the money line 1.66. That's not bad at all. But if you're looking to get a little froggy, I could go with the KO and get a stoppage for 2.5 to 1. I don't mind that at all. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one, I think, as long as it goes the way I think it will, and I'm definitely taking OSP in this one. Next up, we've got the main event of the evening. Anthony Lionheart-Smith versus Glover Teixeira, the grizzled vet, old. I really like Glover Teixeira. There's a point in time where he was arguably the best 205-pounder in the world. That's a little bit ago, for sure. But there was definitely a point in time where that was a legitimate thing to say. When he knocked out Ryan Bader, that was it, and then fought John Jones for the title. Obviously, took a loss. I think he fought for the title, I want to say twice, lost both times. And he's just, yeah, old vet, man, seen everything. much like Michael Johnson, Andre Arlovski. You gotta love Glover Teixeira, and he's still getting it done. 40 years old, still getting it done. That Nikita Krylov fight was a good one to watch. That was a good fight. Those guys are both really good, really game on the ground. Surprisingly, you might not think that. I don't know of Nikita Krylov, but Kudalaba, I really am not sure about. He's a weird guy, but he definitely rocked Glover, rocked him in that first round. And then Teixeira just recovered, put it together, and got the rear naked choke in the second round. Same thing with Carl Roberson, who's fighting on the undercard. Rocked. He got borderline knocked out for a second. Recovers, arm triangle. That's all she wrote. Neither of those guys are very good on the ground, Kutalaba or Roberson. Krylov is, so it was no shocker that he couldn't put him away. Knocks out Misha Serkinov, another guy who's decent on the ground. Corey Anderson couldn't put him away. And then lost to Gustafsson with that vicious uppercut back in 17. I think that was for one of his title shots that he lost that one there. So yeah, he could do it all. Like, he could do it all. They're very similar as far as like height and reach and everything like that. There's not too many mismatches as far as height and reach on this card. So moving over to Anthony Smith, apologies. He's fought a lot considering 31 years old. That record is crazy for 31 years old, and it's actually light. So in his last, let's call it since he moved to light heavyweight, the only loss he's had at light heavyweight so far is John Jones. He lost to Thiago Santos back when they were both 185, as far as I can recall. They were both 185 at the time, and Thiago Santos got the better of him, which is like, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, obviously. So his two losses in the last about 4 years, Thiago Santos and John Jones. Yeah, we saw the John Jones Thiago Santos fight, and we know how good he is. So yeah, we got the Gustafsson fight. He showed a lot to me. He showed a lot of patience to me. That was probably pretty frustrating to have. You know, Anthony Smith had him he was bouncing around all over the place, doing just what Gustafsson does, how he fights, and he's an extremely good fighter. If you have not seen, for any reason, Gustafsson John Jones fight number 1, watch it. One of the best fights I think I've ever seen. Ended up getting a hold of him and taking him down and choking him out in the 4th round. It was close on the feet. It was close. That would have been a hard fight to judge, a really hard fight to score. And against John Jones, he just never really kind of showed up. It just was not his night at all. It was a huge stage for him. Huge stage, big fight, and I feel like it just kind of got the better of him, and he just couldn't pull the trigger against John Jones. And then he's been knocking guys out for a lot of years viciously. He's got ridiculous power. So how I see this fight going, I mean, and he's a legit black belt. Anthony Smith is a legit BJJ black belt as well. So is Glover Teixeira, but so Anthony Smith is game on the ground, and he doesn't get recognized for it very much. He showed it against Gustafsson, but he hasn't really kind of needed to. I mean, he choked out Volkan Ozdemir as well, but he hasn't really needed to with that knockout power. Do your thing, man. So, and Glover Teixeira can't move like Gustafsson can. So he's not going to be able to kind of just dance around and work his stand up. It's just not going to happen. So I see this ending in knockout. I do, and I see Anthony Smith knocking out Glover Teixeira. It's hard to do, very hard to do, but it's a 5-round fight. And Anthony Smith has gone to at least the 4th round in his past 2 fights in a row. He fought to a decision against John Jones and then won in the 4th round against Gustafsson. Glover Teixeira hasn't fought past a third round since he fought Gustafsson, where he got knocked out in the 5th. And he's only been past the third round, I think, twice in his career. John Jones and Gustafsson are the only fights that he's gone past the third round. Not that that's a huge thing, and Anthony Smith hasn't gone past the third round in too many of his fights either. But the thing is, that was 3 years ago for Glover Teixeira. He was 37, and you know, bunch younger, man. At 40, at that age, to me, there's a big difference between 37 and 40 at that point. It's a lot different than 27 and 30. So, yeah, he's not going to be able to just take down Anthony Smith and tap him out. It's not going to happen. He's a legit black belt. It's just not going to happen. So I see Anthony Smith catching him and finishing him. I see him either knocking him out clean or TKO via punches. That's really how I see this going. Now, for the betting, that's not a screaming amount of difference to get the knockout versus the money line. So I'm 100% taking the money line in a parlay, maybe 4 or 5 runners, like I've mentioned about a couple other fights. I'm definitely taking the money line, but I might just take that 2-1 for a knockout. I might, for a 5-round fight, I really like Anthony Smith's chances to finish this thing. I really, really, really do. I might be more confident in this than a lot of my other picks on this card. I just don't see a way that, I mean, the only way I see Glover Teixeira winning this is if he can get it to the ground and he just is better than Anthony Smith on the ground, which is possible. But that's not how I see this going. That's not what I see happening. That's not what I'm picking. That's not what I'm betting on. So the only place that I really see a ton of value, I mean, to be honest, like I might even sprinkle in a crazy parlay if I'm getting crazy. I might take a first round stoppage for Anthony Smith. Probably only getting like 4.5, 5-1 or something like that, which is not crazy when you're betting rounds. So I might sprinkle that in a like 3-runner parlay with some other ones that I'm super confident in. But either way, I'm taking Anthony Smith, and I like the money line, and there's nothing wrong with that knockout 2-1 as well. So those are my picks for UFC Fight Night 171. As always, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. Do me a huge favor, hit that like button as well as a subscribe and turn on notifications to get notified anytime I put out a video. So if you like what you hear, hook me up, send it to friends, do whatever you got to do. If you want to see my personal bet slips, go ahead and follow at Cody Woodman there. That's where I'll be posting all the bet slips that I put together for myself. And again, this is Cody reminding you guys, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right.